Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for an amazing, wonderful announcement. Thanks to the hard work of folks with me here today, others around city government, from our federal government, state government, great partnership that made this announcement today possible. When we talk about public safety, one of the things we have to talk about is safe streets. We know what it's going to take to make our neighborhoods and streets safer and to reduce the number of traffic crashes, injuries, and deaths. Today, I'm thrilled to announce we're taking a big step forward to make our streets safer. Louisville has received $21 million in Safe Streets and Roads for All funding from the federal government to implement new safety improvements here in Louisville. This is a game changer for us. It will save lives and prevent serious injuries, and that's one of the best investments we can make as a city. The $21 million federal grant will be matched by nearly $4 million in local funds and $1.5 million in state funding, for a total local investment of almost $27 million. Right-sizing makes low-cost, high-benefit changes to roads and can reduce crashes from anywhere from between 20 and 50%. So we're talking about a huge positive impact for our city. The improvements in right-sizing roads includes changing the dynamic of each corridor in ways to reduce dangerous speed, reducing the number of travel lanes pedestrians must cross, creating traffic calming improvements, and reallocating space for refuge islands, bicycle lanes, on-street parking, and transit stops. The focus of these new funds will be to right-size 10 corridors in Louisville. This will lower vehicle speeds where if a crash does occur, it is less likely to result in a fatal or serious injury. Of the 10 corridors to be right-sized with funds provided by this grant, 6 directly impact underserved communities as identified by the United States Department of Transportation disadvantaged census tracts. In total, more than 60% of the total project costs will be invested in underserved communities here in Louisville. These improvements are desperately needed. Tragically, more than 900 people have died on Louisville roadways since 2014. Our goal is to eliminate traffic deaths by 2050, if not sooner. These improvements today will help towards that goal. There's a lot of thanks to go around for this, and so I'd like to recognize some of our amazing partners who helped make this happen long before I was elected mayor. First, President Biden, with his leadership on the federal law to implement this, along with United States Senator Mitch McConnell, who supported this effort and who I'm told even contacted Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg directly to advocate for this grant for Louisville. He played a major role in making this happen. Also, a big thanks to our current representative, Morgan McGarvey, and our former U.S. Congressman, John Yarmouth, for their advocacy for safe streets and also helping to support this initiative. My predecessor, former Mayor Greg Fisher, and his team, several of whom are still with us in the administration, thank you all so much for your hard effort on this grant. You all did the legwork to make this a reality. KIPTA Executive Director Jared Haley, and also a final thanks to, two final thanks. One is to our great partners on Metro Council, many of whom are with us here today. Thank you for your support of this grant and of everything that you do to invest in safer roadways throughout all of Louisville. This is a first great step we'll be working on together, and I look forward to working with everyone on Metro Council to continue to make roadways safer in all 26 Metro Council districts. And finally, a big thanks to Governor Andy Beshear, Secretary of Transportation Jim Gray, and their colleagues at the Transportation Department, who also supported this grant, are providing some of the matching funds, and are such an important partner of the city as we work together on all of our roadways throughout the city. So without further ado, let me introduce our partner on this project, Secretary of Transportation Jim Gray.
Well, I get to say right out of the gate, thank you, Mayor Greenberg. It's the first time I've gotten to say that, Deputy Mayor Barbara Sexton Smith. We've been friends a long time, so I am so thrilled to be here with you all today. And I am here representing Governor Andy Beshear. The governor told me, Mayor, to thank everyone and to say how excited he is about this grant. And that, you know, seeing a project like this come together, y'all have to forgive me because I'm going to dial back a few years when I had the role of mayor in a little town east of here. And a project like this really is so much about quality of life and quality of place. And when a community like Louisville has done, when a community puts a premium on quality of life and quality of place, then that community is going to have economic vitality and energy and success and forward movement. And that's exactly what Louisville has done and Jefferson County has done. And so it's incredibly exciting. In this role that I have today for Governor Beshear, you know, he reminds me routinely that we are all about safe streets. I have with me today our Deputy State Highway Engineer, Jason Sawala, who is the Cabinet's go-to guy for safety. And on the way over, Jason was telling me more about this project, more about what I already knew about this project, but just how inspiring it is. The right-sizing initiative, the Safe Streets for All initiative, the federal initiative, is all about what Secretary Buttigieg and the President have talked about in terms of activating our communities in the right way. Louisville's Vision Zero for 2050 is all about that same commitment. And it's one that we support at the Cabinet because in our core values at the Cabinet, safety, public safety, as well as, frankly, our employee safety. We start with our employee safety as our commitment. And that leads us then to a commitment to the driving public. So what the mayor said about Louisville's numbers since 2014, of course, causes us to pause and to think, okay, how can we improve? This, again, is all about continuous improvement. Our preliminary figures for Kentucky, actually, for 2022, indicate a decline in facilities. But no death or serious injury on our roads is ever acceptable. These represent, yes, this 2050 goal represents a bold goal, but it's one that, from the state's point of view, from the governor's point of view, is aspirational, yes, it's ambitious, yes, but it has happened in other communities across the world. And this is why this ambitious and aspirational goal is what it is. I want to say a couple of things more, just a couple of things, because the mayor said, you got to stop, Jim, in 4 minutes or less. And I, too, want to thank Senator McConnell. He has been so instrumental in projects that we've worked on, making calls to the president, making calls to the secretary, for example, on other projects that we've had. And so I want to acknowledge that as well. We have at the state, we're very proud of having developed our Complete Streets Manual in the fall of 2022. And that's for the whole state, because believe it or not, these are not just issues. Multiple modes of transportation and access are not just issues for our urban areas, for our larger urban areas like a Louisville or a Lexington or a Bowling Green, but they are issues and represent opportunities for our smaller communities and our rural communities all across the state. And that is why our Complete Streets, we are so proud of that. And I needed to get that in, Mr. Mayor, before I stopped. Okay, thank you all so much for having us here today. Really appreciate it, and we appreciate the close collaboration that we have with the city and with the county. Thank you all so much. I'll get this out of your way.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you and Governor Beshear for your amazing support of this and so much else that's moving Louisville forward. Would any of my colleagues, anyone from Metro Council like to say anything, or you guys good? All right, well, we're happy to answer a couple questions from the media if there are any. I might ask Amanda to come help answer some of the technical questions about the details, but please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Grace with WDRB. When can we start to expect to see some of these improvements starting, like in areas like River Road, for example, some of the ones highlighted?
Do you want to talk about the timeline a little, Amanda?
Sure. Hi, Amanda Deathridge with Louisville Metro Public Works. There are 10 corridors as part of this grant, and so they each have their own individual timeline. I don't remember exactly River Road, but I do know that the first one is scheduled for construction to begin at the end of 2024, and the last one is scheduled for construction to be complete by the end of calendar year 2027.
As Amanda and other of my colleagues know, I'm a pretty impatient person, so we'll try to move that up, but that's the current plan. Yes.
I know a lot of these projects in Witherspoon include bike lanes in the planning process. Are those going to be, buffered bike lanes? What is sort of like the structure in which we've developed?
Yes. So as part of this grant application, we did have to come up with preliminary designs of what we wanted to propose to compete for this grant. And so out of those 10 corridors, there are a few that did propose bike lanes to be added with this right sizing, because when you're taking lanes away, the capacity changes for cars, and maybe that space could be used for bike lanes instead. I would say that the final design is not final yet, and so that's part of the process of why it's going to take until 2027 to get all of these finished. Is we're going to launch a final design process where we come to that final decision of what the bike lanes actually look like, if they have buffered or protection. I would say that it's not too late in the process for public engagement to happen. We're going to do public engagement as required for this project, and so it's not too late. The preliminary designs are not final, but we do have a lot of right-of-way constrictions with these projects, so we'll see how the final design process plays out.
Lighting has been an issue with several of the traffic fatalities that we've seen on some of the streets. Is there any, is this addressed, including lighting on any of these corridors?
Yes, so the name of the grant is Right Sizing Louisville for Safe Streets, and so all 10 corridors will be right-sized. That doesn't mean that's the only safety improvement that we're doing. We are going to consider through that final design process what other safety improvements to add. And lighting is one of those that we're going to consider on every corridor of, can we improve lighting on all 10 of those corridors?
Amanda, what can drivers expect? I feel like that sometimes is a concern with the total shutdown when these projects happen, partial lane closure.
Sure. During construction, we try to do MOT, right? We try to maintain regular traffic flow to minimal disruptions as much as possible during actual construction. Depending on each corridor, there might be full closures for short periods of time, but we try to keep those as minimal as possible.
All right, well, thank you all so much. We're very excited to announce this amazing $21 million federal grant that will create $27 million of safer roads throughout Louisville. This is just the beginning of what we're looking forward to do. So on behalf of everyone from Metro Council, from our entire administration, thank you, Governor Beshear, Secretary Gray, President Biden, Secretary Buttigieg, and more. We're excited to move forward with this project. Thank you all very much.